Welcome back to Overtake. I'm Michel, this is Henry, and this is the second video in the series brought to you with the awesome support of AMD. Let's take a look at these two scenes. I've driven the stage in Assetto Corsa Rally here. Aside from the fact that the steering wheels are different, what do you notice? In both cases, it looks really sleek, runs smoothly, and as you can see, I'm having a blast. A 32:9 aspect ratio ensures great immersion in both cases. The difference? If we look solely at the monitor, GPU and CPU, one of the setups is over 500 euros more expensive than the other. Today, we're proving that you don't always have to go for top-of-the-line gear to get a great sim racing experience. I'll be showcasing and testing two systems and components that I believe will represent the sweet spot in 2026 for delivering a great racing experience without any significant compromises. This will hopefully be very informative and insightful if you're building your next racing PC or simply want to see the status of various racing titles as of July 2026 and where they stand performance-wise. Last time we put the X3D CPUs through extensive testing. This time, two graphics cards are the focus of our attention, and I'll be benchmarking them in 6 representative racing scenarios. By the way, if you enjoy content like this, we'd be extremely grateful if you'd show your support with a like and subscribe to our channel. We're on the way to 185,000 subscribers. Thank you. The AMD Radeon RX 9070 XT GPU in Gigabyte 16GB overclocked version already got to show what it's capable of in the CPU video, a worthy flagship. Today it's going head-to-head with its little sibling from AMD, the Radeon RX 9060 XT, also from Gigabyte and also with 16 gigs of VRAM. This version of the 9070 XT is currently available here in Europe, starting around 650 euros, while the 9060 XT goes for about 415 euros. That's already quite a difference. As for the rest of the test setup, we're pairing the 9060 XT with the AMD Ryzen 7 7800 X3D as a CPU, while the 9070 XT gets the AMD Ryzen 7 9800 X3D. A key factor in determining performance is of course the screen resolution, and this is where it gets interesting. The smaller system is paired with the Titan Army 49-inch monitor at 3840 by 1080, while the larger one is paired with the Samsung G9 in the VA panel version at 5120 by 1440, also 49 inches. If you are using a different aspect ratio like 16:9 or 21:9, I can show you the pixel densities for comparison, depending on which setup you're planning. This total number of pixels is always a good indicator of how much power the system needs to render the examples from today's video at similar settings. Our dual FHD setup falls between QHD and ultra-wide QHD, making it a pretty attractive option for budget-friendly sim racing. As part of the 9000 series, both cards use the RDNA 4 architecture, which is based on TSMC's efficient 4nm chips. Both cards are also relatively compact in size, so we still have room for our Elgato 4K Pro card in the lower PCI Express slot, for example. The Gigabyte 9070 XT has 2 DisplayPort 2.1 and 2 HDMI 2.1 ports. So if you're planning to use a triple screen setup, you should opt for another partner's model with 3 times DisplayPort. The Asus Radeon RX 9070 XT Prime Gaming OC would be one example. Man, these names are long. The smaller Gigabyte 9060 XT also has 2 DisplayPorts and 1 HDMI. This means you can connect a second monitor and, for example, a dash display unit. Let's get into the first test scenario, and for that I brought along Automobilista 2, which is currently extremely popular thanks to its historic F1 updates and which is pretty much unbeatable in terms of the graphics it delivers relative to its performance cost for your PC system. With most settings on high to ultra, the 9070 XT easily hits around 130 FPS natively on dual QHD right from the start, with plenty of AI cars around us. Setting in later at 150 to 160 FPS once the traffic has cleared. The experience is of course extremely crisp and smooth. But how does the other system handle it? That seriously blew me away. The in-game settings are exactly the same. The only difference is the dual FHD resolution. If you look closely, you can spot small differences when comparing the screens, which would honestly be strange if you couldn't. But subjectively, it barely matters, and the experience isn't any worse for it. With the 9060 XT, we get a rock-solid 100 FPS here. I'd argue most people wouldn't notice a difference if they tried both rigs back to back. Either way, it's a top-notch experience. AMS2 is just a beautiful title right now. By the way, I recorded all the footage on each respective system using AMD's Adrenalin software. Their recording only cost about 3 to 5 FPS on average, depending on the title a little bit, so feel free to factor that back to the results. The Adrenalin toolset also offers other features like automatic game optimization with the HyperRX presets, for example, plus a built-in performance logger and FPS overlay. Let me know in the comments if you use features like these often. The next one, Assetto Corsa Rally, built on Unreal Engine 5 and currently in early access, so it could be further optimized in the future. It's considered one of the more hardware-hungry titles out there, and that is also my experience. Even with high-end systems, breaking well past 100 FPS at high resolutions isn't a given. AC Rally also supports FSR, AMD's in-house machine learning tech for upscaling, among other things. The current version is FSR 4.1. And just a few days ago, that was also rolled out to the Radeon RX 7000 series cards, and it can deliver really nice results. We'll see that in action shortly with Forza Horizon 6. AC Rally currently still runs on FSR 3, which still helps quite a bit in the hunt for FPS. Both systems can hit a stable 80 to 90 FPS without having to fully sacrifice visual quality. With the RX 9070 XT, there are the two routes, either medium to high details with the FSR resolution scale at 75%, in which case the GPU upscales from 1080p to 1440p, or the high preset with a 60% resolution scale, which would mean rendering at just 864p and upscaling to 1440p. The first option with less upscaling definitely looks sharper, and I would prefer it. I'm curious to see how this turns out once FSR 4 support eventually comes to AC Rally. Looking at video memory usage, we can see that the 16GB VRAM version of the 9060 XT is well equipped for these racing titles. Spoiler, every test you'll see here today uses more than 8GB. There is an 8GB version of the 9060 XT out there as well, so pay close attention when buying. I'd clearly recommend going with the 16GB version for racing. Now let's turn to iRacing, a title currently lesser known for its graphical fidelity and more for its online service and overall scope. But there is some fresh news here too. In the March and lately the June development updates, there was talk of a new graphics rendering engine codenamed Spark, along with work being done on the physics engine and multi-core utilization. And that's badly needed, because dialing in iRacing setting hasn't been fun on any system so far. Many of the options added over the years to modernize the game's look unfortunately come at a steep performance cost. The shadow map filters alone are very resource intensive if you want to use a setting like the PCF16 with more realistic soft shadows. With the 9060 XT, we're more in PCF4 territory for this setting, paired with the shaders on high. I think that combination is also used when you go for the Class 2 high quality preset within iRacing, which gets us between 100 and 160 FPS with acceptable visuals. Unfortunately, These fluctuations in the FPS are normal for this game if you don't cap the FPS or enable the dynamic level of detail setting at a high rate. The 9070 XT averaged about 30 FPS faster here with the same settings, but on one lap at Road Atlanta, for example, the FPS ranges from 110 to 220. That's pretty wild. Here you can comfortably bump up the PCF8 filter and some higher world detail settings if you're happy with 80 to 100 FPS. I'm curious to see what the future holds for iRacing with the new Spark engine. I'm really looking forward to it. In the CPU video we covered Assetto Corsa Evo, but its direct predecessor Assetto Corsa Competizione currently has 4 times as many daily players on Steam. Plus, it's back in the summer sale right now with a hefty discount on all DLCs as well. In my opinion, it's still a perfect title to get into sim racing with. Built on Unreal Engine 4, it does have fairly steep system requirements for a 2019 game. Yes, we're all getting old, but the 9070 XT in particular handles it well, and we can hit stable 100 plus FPS natively on high details during a race around the Nordschleife. Why native? Any form of upscaling unfortunately looks very blurry and washed out in ACC since it doesn't support modern options like FSR3 or FSR4. Temporal anti-aliasing without upscaling is always my choice here, as long as the system can handle it. I haven't played this game in a while, and I have to say it's a lot of fun and holds its own against Le Mans Ultimate, iRacing and the like. If you happen to be checking this out in June or early July 2026, be sure to grab it during the Steam sale. And speaking of grabbing things, here's a little surprise. We're giving away a Gigabyte Radeon RX 9070 XT 16GB gaming OC, the exact same model you see here in the video, but of course unused, brand new, and still in its original packaging, protected by Henry even. Thanks to AMD for not only supporting this video, but also for giving something back to you out there. Thumbs up. I also recorded some Forza Horizon 6, partly as a showcase for FSR 4.1, and partly because it offers a really solid and comparable benchmark mode that a lot of gaming outlets use as well. This gives us a little nice anchor point compared to our other scenarios in case you're interested in more detailed GPU and CPU benchmarks from other sources. I ran it both without and with the Adrenalin tools recording running. Results 117 versus 113 FPS on the RX 9060 XT, which on high to ultra settings with screen space reflections renders George's scenery around 100 FPS while free roaming in the open world. Since FH6 is still a good feeling game even kept at 60 FPS, which is also the standard on consoles, there is obviously plenty more visual headroom to unlock, especially with FSR 4.1 enabled. The 9070 XT really steps things up here at a higher resolution, handling ultra to extreme settings during regular free roam on the map at a stable 130 FPS. Forza Horizon 6 makes it clear what upscaling could be capable of in sim racing going forward too, and I think this is just the beginning. Let's check back in a year and see how things have developed and if more titles add FSR4 support. Would be nice. Last but certainly not least in our comparison is Le Mans Ultimate. The WEC simulator has been out of early access for nearly a year now and has a stable community that primarily plays competitive online. The single-player crowd is still eagerly awaiting career mode, which we can likely look forward to later this year. I find that the game's driving experience benefits greatly from high FPS, 100 and up. After all, more FPS means lower frame time and lower input latency. With our 2 setups, this is easily achievable here as well. With 25 visible vehicles, live TV displays turned off and 4 times MSAA, the 9070 XT reaches 100 FPS with a bit of headroom in most scenarios. That said, extreme situations such as a wet start at Le Mans or rain during the day to night transition can easily drop the frame rate by another 20 to 30 FPS depending on the conditions. Le Mans Ultimate demands a lot of graphics power then. On high settings, we're still managing 80 to 100 FPS with the 9060 XT, and the frame rate tends to rise as the field spreads out further. Another way to boost FPS here would be post-processing, which was set to medium. There's still plenty of room for improvement on the low setting. Unfortunately, due to the technical framework of the Easy Motor 2.5 engine, some modern technologies are missing, most notably any form of upscaling. If Studio 397 were to implement this in the future, many users would likely enjoy more details at the same or even higher FPS. Now it's your turn. Which of the games shown surprised you the most, and which one do you play the most? Should we run more benchmarks on a specific title that you felt was missing from the video? Do you have any other tips on which settings take the biggest toll on FPS? Are you more of a team efficiency and budget-friendly type, or do you pour all of your money into this hobby? I think the test showed that even with a relatively affordable RX 9060 XT, you can get fantastic results if you choose the appropriate resolution. I look forward to discussing this with you in the comments. Don't forget the giveaway, by the way, it's down in the description. Another video in collaboration with AMD is coming soon, and hopefully it'll be a cool surprise. Here's a link to the in-depth X3D analysis. Have fun racing and see you next time.